All right, I think we can get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to How to Build Brand Awareness and Increase Engagement with Influencer Marketing. My name is Victoria Cohen, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Cybba. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. If you're tweeting with us, please tweet at @Cybba_HQ. If you have any questions throughout the course of the presentation, please use the questions panel in Zoom to ask those questions, and we'll have time dedicated at the end of the presentation to answer them. And we are recording this webinar for later playback and sharing, so if you missed something or you'd like to share it with a colleague or your network, don't worry, we'll have it for you. So I'd like to introduce our expert for today. I'm very excited to introduce Laura Martinez. She is the Senior Influencer Strategist here at Cybba. She came on just recently to launch our influencer strategy here, and she's already built out a really impressive program and run some campaigns that have had incredible results. She has over 4 very impressive years of digital marketing experience, but her specialty is really influencer marketing, and she's really at the helm of this offering for Cybba. So we're really excited to have her, and we know she's going to do a great job explaining something that I think a lot of people have some mixed ideas about. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So let's run through the agenda. Today will be a very educational session, very high level. What is influencer marketing by definition, and why it is worth an investment and a part of your digital marketing strategy. We'll go through the different types of influencers and what questions you should be asking when deciding which influencer to partner with. And we'll give you some examples of really good influencer campaigns. We'll then provide some context with one of our very high performing campaigns for Wizard Watch. And we'll wrap up, as always, with key takeaways, and we'll take your questions at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Laura.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro. All right. So at the top of a lot of people's minds is why influencer marketing? Why does it work? What is it at its very core? And truth be told, at its core, influencer marketing is word of mouth marketing. So it's individuals making recommendations to other individuals. Influencer marketing works this way really well because typically people trust other individuals more so than they trust brands. They'll trust these recommendations and what people are saying about a brand rather than what a brand is saying about themselves. Influencer marketing, however, allows the brand to step in and utilize word of mouth marketing in a controllable and trackable manner and ensure that it's being boosted out to the right audiences. So a few statistics to back these claims up. The first is 61% of consumers surveyed did find information from a person like me to be credible or very credible. And 63% of individuals trust influencer messages about a brand more so than a company's advertising about their own brand. The next set of statistics more speak to the cadence of how often this is actually influencing purchase decisions. So 87% of consumers surveyed agreed that they were inspired to make a purchase based on what they saw from an influencer. And 65% of consumers discover new brands or products through influencers on a weekly basis. So those are 2 cadences that we definitely want to tap into and ensure that we're offering this to smaller brands that might need a boost in sales or just a boost in awareness. All right, so influencer marketing is the process of leveraging an existing social media influencer by having this individual endorse the brand, support your content, or co-create content with you and your brand. Simply put, anyone could really be an influencer, whether you have 2,000 followers on a social media platform or 200,000. If you can influence perception of others and change the way they act or change their behavior, you are considered an influencer. However, there is a science to this, and we'll talk about how you can select the right influencers for your brand. So there's a few different tiers of influencers. On the left here, we have awareness-based influencers. So these influencers are going to do a great job at creating buzz around your product, but maybe not so much purchases. Someone like Reese Witherspoon is at the top of the tier. She's obviously a celebrity who was famous for something other than Instagram or anything digitally based. Her popularity therefore extends past social media reach, and people aren't just following her solely because they like her lifestyle and think they can attain it. Next, we have a top tier influencer who would be someone like Rocky Barnes. Rocky got her start with styling and a fashion blog way back when. And so now she's an influencer as well because she has multiple channels that she promotes her brand and herself on. So those two individuals will be an awareness play. However, if you're looking for engagement and true conversions, individuals on the other side of the spectrum with engagement are going to be your best bet. So we have a macro influencer like Quigley Good. She's someone that's considered Instagram famous. She got her start doing styling for a couple different brands, but she showcases her personal style on her page. And so people follow her because she has that specific type of content they're looking for. They're inspired by her everyday life and her outfits. And then we also get into narrow influencers who are micro. Someone like Parker York Smith is a micro influencer. He appeals to a niche because he promotes solely men's fashion and a bit of men's lifestyle. So that's someone who is going to be a power Instagram user, posting multiple times a day, and they'll partner with a lot of different types of brands. There's also different niches that influencers fall into. So obviously the influencer marketing, now that this market has been around for years, is getting really crowded. Defining a niche not only helps influencers stand out, but also helps a brand ensure that they are reaching the exact pool of people that they need to be. So originally, niches were something like motherhood or fitness. Those are really two of the big niches that first came into play with influencers. But since the platform's been around for so long, we have since seen smaller and smaller niches come about. So someone like Mauricio Camargo is a Zumba dance instructor, and his entire page is pretty focused on that. And then an individual like Catherine, this is one of the few pictures that she is in on her page. Most of her page features houseplants. So those are two avenues that, while they don't seem like obvious choices for influencer marketing, if you have a product that appeals and will resonate with those audiences of those individuals, even if Mauricio or Catherine's following is half that of Brittany and Tom's, you're going to know that that half is truly interested in your product and cares what your influencer is recommending. So selecting the right influencers, more than just determining what tier they're going to fall into, if you're doing an awareness or an engagement play, or what niche they are in. Influencers also have to be credible. They have to be authentic in their storytelling. They have to be compelling with the story that they are telling and make sure that the audience relates to it. The target audience should care about what the influencer is saying, as well as what the photography they're putting out there is. So a great influencer is selective with their brand partnerships. You don't want to partner with someone who takes on every single partnership that comes their way, because then they're not being authentic with the partnerships. We want to make sure that an influencer regularly uses and believes in the brand. And if they don't regularly use it, then they at least have a strong belief that this brand will be the right fit for them, because then they can be a true brand advocate rather than just a one-time advertisement. An influencer should feel like a natural extension of the brand. So say if you heard someone like Catherine actually worked for the company she was promoting, that wouldn't be a surprise to you. It just feels right. It feels like part of her brand, and she feels like part of their company messaging. And then finally, we want to make sure that the influencers are creating conversation with their followers and engaging their audience on a day-to-day basis. There's nothing worse than when you put up a product and all of the comments are about the influencer's outfit. That's when you know that the conversation isn't aligned to what you're promoting. So the other side of the coin is making sure that your influencer marketing campaign setup is really spot on. It's not just enough to get the right influencers on your campaign. You have to make sure that your campaign directives for these influencers and as a whole have to be unique, specific, relevant, and memorable. You want to make sure that this campaign is spreading a clear and defined specific message, which we do through the creation of very detailed creative briefs. These campaigns should use strong call to actions that actually spur the audience to action, whether it be buying the product or clicking and raising awareness. That influencer piece comes back in and making sure that you're activating influencers who are a natural brand fit as well as strong performers. And then our last piece is making sure that we support all of our campaigns with smart targeted whitelisting. And whitelisting is a practice of using Facebook advertisements or LinkedIn advertisements, TikTok advertisements to boost the content out to an even wider audience. So we're going to dive a bit into a recent campaign I ran for Wizard Watch. To give you a bit of context, Wizard Watch is a GPS tracking watch for kids. So parents can make sure that they know where their kid is. If their kid is, outside playing or going to school, they can easily get a message to them if need be and check in on their location throughout the day. So all of our campaigns start with a bit of research. We'll do a deep dive into the brand, into the brand's existing marketing strategy, and then also current trends and culture to determine the most effective marketing practices. Next, we'll weave all of that research into a detailed activation strategy tailored to each campaign. There'll also be key performance indicators that we'll be activating against. Next, Cybba is a full-scale influencer campaign management agency. So we manage every single piece of the campaign, down to researching and identifying the influencers, as well as onboarding and managing them. Next, once the influencers have posted, we'll boost the post out with paid social to ensure that that post is seen by an even wider audience. And finally, all of our campaigns do come with a full report and analytics of how it performed. So the research and strategy piece is always our first step. We'll make sure that our strategy here weaves into the marketing strategy of the brand so that Cybba really feels like a natural extension of that brand too. We want to make sure that we always feel like just another member of your team. Our deep dive into the strategy also includes determining the most effective campaign practices. So we can run on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We don't solely pigeonhole ourselves into just one type of campaign. We also ensure that we are defining key performance indicators. In this case, our primary objective was to generate awareness of the product features and differentiators of the Wizard Watch. That's always going to be typically the first step of any campaign, is to drive awareness, because then we can actually spur an action with the secondary objective. For this campaign, we drove clicks to generate sales and conversions from the influencer code. This campaign was run on Instagram with an Instagram carousel post as well as stories. And the influencers showcased their family spending time together, outside all together with the kids wearing the watch. So we worked with 4 influencers that I identified and onboarded, negotiated, and got to sign contracts with us. So we do include an influencer agreement to ensure that we have protection on both the influencer and the brand side. Once the influencers were on board, we did provide them with a full creative brief and walked them through it. This creative brief ensures that the influencers have enough creative freedom to execute how they want to, that will resonate well with their audience, but still sets up a few parameters to ensure that we're hitting all the right messaging for the brand and getting content that the brand can then reuse. Once the influencers posted, we do a bit of tracking, see how it's performing, and then we amplify it through that paid social process. The paid social is included in every campaign and is part of our package bundle. This is really great because someone like Ali Enright has about 40,000 followers, but with paid social, we can boost her post out to 4 times that many people with the same interest as her own audience and with the same interest of the people it already performed with. And next, we go through a full report with the client. So we'll analyze the campaign performance, as well as key learnings, takeaways, recommendations will be made. So for this campaign, we did have 4 influencers on board, which was the upper limit of our goal of 2 to 4 influencers. Our impressions was right in the middle on the upper side of our goal at 466,000 impressions. Our clicks goal actually doubled, performed double. 3,018 clicks when we originally were shooting for about 500 to 1,500. We garnered 35 content assets, which we passed along to the client in reusage rights. So the client now has a license to any of the photos that were created during this campaign. And our click-through rate was 2.32%, which was really awesome because while our goal was 2%, we did surpass that. Typically on Facebook, it is about a 0.9% average. So we also were able to look at the month-over-month data of the online store for Wizard Watch and show the true value of influencer marketing aside from just the paid spend. We're able to directly attribute these increases to the influencer campaign because there wasn't any other changes in the marketing strategy. Everything else remained static besides adding on this influencer campaign. So we had 225% increase in conversions, a 300% increase in revenue, 322% increase in conversion rate, and an increase of the click-through rate of 10%. All right, so why Cybba for influencer? Because there are a lot of options out there. There is the ability to do this on your own, to onboard influencers, negotiate with them, get them contracted, get them a creative brief. But obviously, as you've seen in this presentation, it's a process. There is a lot of strategy required and expertise. Thus, campaigns are most successful when coordinated by specialists such as myself who understand the landscape and have worked in the agency world for a little while now and understand the relationship between marketers and influencers. The best part is Cybba doesn't require the high upfront media buy-ins that most influencer agencies do. It's actually why I came onto Cybba. I really believe in making this accessible to brands of all sizes. So if it's a brand that's just starting out and they really want to test into influencer marketing, we can make that package perfect for them and their budgetary needs. Just by moving a few pieces around to ensure that it's still really successful, but a campaign that still makes sense for them. We also have access to a portfolio of premium influencers and can find the right influencer for your brand, no matter what your brand really is. We work on a variety of verticals. But I will say on that caveat, we aren't an agency that also represents influencers. That happens a lot where it's a management company and a talent agency. If they're on the internet, we can pretty much work with them. Finally, we make sure that all of our work is integrated seamlessly into your existing marketing strategies. So if you have something that you're running already and it makes sense to weave influencer marketing into this, we'll make sure that that's woven perfectly.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that really comprehensive but easy to understand overview, Laura. Just to wrap up before we take your questions, we really want to stress that that influencer is really an art form. There's a range of different types of influencers, and the person with the most followers is often not going to be the best fit for your brand. Just because someone has 1 million followers doesn't mean they're going to be effectively promoting your product. As Laura so strategically put it, these campaigns require extensive research. It's not a set it and forget it sort of add-on. And in order to have the sorts of results that we were able to have with Wizard Watch, they need to be closely managed. And as you saw with the highly impressive results from our Wizard Watch campaign, there's an opportunity for both significant growth in awareness and engagement. And Cybba is sort of special in that everything is campaign-based. So whereas there were many obstacles keeping smaller brands from utilizing influencer marketing in the past, we really want to make this accessible so that everyone can reap the benefits and we can connect meaningful influencers with brands for meaningful results. So it's time to take some questions. The first one that came in, what influencers would my brand have access to?
Awesome question. So I touched briefly on that. We do make sure that we can work with anyone across all verticals across the internet. If they have an Instagram or Pinterest, Facebook, whatever it is that we're running your campaign on, and they work with brands, we do have the ability to work with them. I've in the past worked with celebrities. I've worked with micro influencers with 3,000 followers. It's really spanned the gamut. So it's dependent on what's the right fit for your brand. And we take care of all of that with the influencer identification piece.
Great. We just had one come in that sort of goes off of another question, so I'm going to combine a bit. So there's a question about CBD hemp companies, and I'm going to tie that into another question about what verticals benefit most in your experience from influencer marketing campaigns.
Yeah, so we can work across all verticals. There are some limitations as to what Facebook ads can run against, but we have been looking into running Facebook ads with CBD hemp oil specifically, and we have run a couple of successful CBD campaigns with influencers. So that's definitely a possibility. I would say if it's a vertical that people are online talking about, it's a vertical we can work with. I've worked with older mature adults with campaigns, which, you know, is a not obvious vertical there that you wouldn't think social media marketing would work for, but it does. And I've worked with college age students. It's just dependent on the needs of your business, but we can also get really targeted with our geolocation. So we'll run both local and nation-based campaigns for both product or service-based companies.
Okay. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. How do I make sure that the influencer represents my brand properly?
Yeah, so part of that is the influencer agreement that we craft. We make sure that it is tight in what the influencer can and can't say about the brand during their working relationship. So we also make sure that all of the influencers we're onboarding are a good brand fit and believe in the brand. But then that also ties into the creative brief that we craft. So the influencer will be given talking points of a sort or product differentiators that we want them to highlight, but it's up to them to craft that into their own voice and tone to make sure that it stays authentic.
Great. Okay, let me just pull up one last question. There's a lot of spirited discussion right now. What is the minimum or a range of a budget for a campaign, especially for a smaller business?
Yeah, so our campaigns typically start at about the $5,000 level. This allows us to ensure that we're paying out influencers enough, as well as allocating enough for the paid social boosting. What's unique about our take, though, is that we make sure that it's specialized to your needs. So we can up or lower any of the budget according to what we need to execute against. So $5,000, I would say, is a really great starting point for campaigns for a small company. And then once you see the success of that, you'll likely be more convinced to add budget to that. But I've had clients on a retainer basis who spend, I mean, maybe $4,000 a month, but they do it every single month, or individuals who run campaigns or project-based every few months and see awesome success with that as well.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, please reach out to us, or we'll follow up if you have signed in with an email address. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find us on all social channels at the handle at Cybba_HQ, and you can email us directly at marketing@cybba.com. And I'd just like to thank Laura again for giving such a great presentation. She is, really leading the charge here at Cybba and has had incredible results. So do feel free to reach out, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.